this is Ellen from iHave.com, and today we're going to be exploring the country of Canada through 10 plus 1 books. Are you ready? Let's go! My mission with these videos is to find books to expand the mind, move the heart, delight the senses, and elevate the soul, and then share all my findings with you. Today we're going to be exploring the beautiful country of Canada through 10 plus 1 books. Now, Canada is a country with heavyweight writers that are definitely worth your time and worth looking at. To begin with, I want to start with a novel that I read somewhere is the most commercially successful novel in Canada. Can you guess which one it is? You probably at least heard about it. And it is Life of Pi by Jan Martel. Now, in a truly Canadian fashion, this novel doesn't even take place in Canada. Most of it happens in the ocean on a boat, and it starts in India and ends up, I believe, in Mexico. So it has very little to do with Canada. It tells the story of a teenager who decides to believe in 3 religions: Christianity, Hinduism, and in Islam. And then once he finds himself stranded on a boat in the middle of the ocean, all by himself, except with a tiger, he then uses what he learned from these 3 religions to survive and get through this very difficult experience. Now, if you've seen the movie, and the movie is good, it's worth seeing, there's a big difference between the movie and the novel. The novel delves in both the beautiful, magical aspects of the experience, but also the dark and disturbing aspects of that adventure. The movie focuses on the beautiful, bright, magical bits and kind of skims over some of the darker stuff. So I think the novel is very much worth your time and worth reading, even if you've seen the novel, because you'll get more out of it. Next on my list is The Stone Diaries by Carol Shields. I am a big fan of Carol Shields, and The Stone Diaries was the very first novel of hers that I've read. And it tells the story of several generations in a family, and it focuses on the experiences of women. Like most Carol Shields writing, it deals with the everyday lives of women and the heroic things and yet ordinary things that women have to go through. And I particularly appreciate there's one at the very beginning of the novel, there's one plot that you think is gonna go into a Lolita territory, you know, the novel Lolita by Nabokov, but then it doesn't. It kind of skims around that issue and then goes in a very different directions. It's about family, marriage, motherhood, bonds between people, the very interesting and surprising things that happen within a lifetime, the heritage we bring with us as we get through life because of where we came from, our families. It is one of those novels that is immersive. It's beautifully written and very much worth your time. Moving on, I have Generation X by Douglas Coupland. Now, when this novel came out, there was a lot of hype about it because it was very unique both in format. The novel has an unusual shape. It also has things written in the margins that kind of illustrate what's happening in the story, but it's also unique in some of the ideas and thoughts that it represents. It talks about a group of young people who have decided that they are disenchanted with mainstream life, have decided to isolate themselves from the rat race. You know, they're no longer interested in doing the things that the rest of society is telling them to do, like get an education, get a job, make money, buy a house, get a mortgage, buy a car, get expensive clothes, and all that stuff. So it's about a group of young people who are hanging out, and they are not interested in what the rest of society is telling them that they should be interested in. And they keep themselves entertained by telling each other stories. And through these stories, you get insights into what they are thinking, what values they hold dear, and what are some of the problems that they are dealing with. So it's one of those stories that has a story within a story in it, a literary device that I'm very fond of. It is fun to read, it gets you to think outside the box, and it's very easy to read. It's a very fun and entertaining read. Next on my list is The Stone Angel by Margaret Lawrence. Now, with Margaret Lawrence, you can't go wrong. Everything she has written is beautiful and stunning. And true to her style, this novel is fantastic, it is beautiful. It's one of those novels you need to be patient with. It kind of unfolds and unravels slowly as you read it. So initially you think, oh, this is a novel about a young woman who's defying her father and defying society and kind of doing the things she wants to do. But then things unravel in ways that you do not expect, and you start to see the main character in a different light. I don't want to ruin it for you. I'd rather you just read it and discover these surprises for yourself, but it is a beautiful, stunning novel. Next on my list is Barney's Version by Mordechai Richter. This is everything that a novel should be. It is fun, it is engaging, it is immersive. The way it describes the characters, you can completely imagine them. You feel that you've experienced a whole lifetime through reading the novel. And I was very lucky because as I was reading the novel, somebody gifted me the biography of Mordechai Richter at the same time. So I read both books, one after the other. And as a result of this, I had the feeling that I was reading aspects of the author in the novel, because there are certain threads and certain similarities between the things that happened in real life with what you read in the novel. So I had the feeling as if the author wanted to say, here's what would have happened had I not pursued my dream and my ambition of becoming a writer. So Barney is a man who has artistic sensibilities. He has all these dreams and ambitions, and like the author, he goes to Paris and meets all these other creative types there and is inspired by the experience. But then he decides to come back to Canada and be realistic and start his own business and focus on making money. This is where the two stories diverge, the real life and what happens in the novel. And so I felt as if the author was saying, I'm very glad I didn't make that decision because I believe this is where it would have led me. So another parallel is that Barney meets the love of his life, the woman who he ends up marrying, and she becomes the mother of his children. He meets her at his wedding. So as he's getting married to one woman, he meets the love of his life and begins to pursue her. And apparently this is exactly what happened to the author as well. He met the love of his life, the woman he was completely devoted to, during his wedding to somebody else. And he begins to pursue her at his wedding. And so all kinds of fun and interesting things come out of that. Highly recommend this novel. Moving on, we're going to be discussing The Sisters, Brothers by Patrick DeWitt. And this talks about two brothers. It's written in a very Western style, but with a twist. There's lots of humor, lots of adventure, there's all kinds of funny bits thrown in. It's about two brothers and the gold rush, and they end up in San Francisco, and some bad guys are pursuing them, and they go on this adventure, and it's an adventure of self-exploration and self-realization. It's a fun read, it's very engaging, it's written in a very interesting and unique style, and that is why I included it on this list. Next, I want to discuss Easy to Like by Edward Reich. This is a very light-hearted and fun to read book. It's not super serious. It's one of those novels that, true to its title, is easy to like. And like many things that are easy to like, it's not necessarily very deep or thought-provoking. So this Easy to Like tells the story of a man who ends up being a high-level executive at CBC, a Canadian institution. And all the humorous and funny things that happens to him in this job. So on one hand, his life is a complete mess, his personal life. He's divorced. He has problems with his grown-up son, and in the meantime, he's in this institution. He has to deal with all these issues of political correctness and inclusion, and having to maintain Canadian content and keeping the viewers engaged at the radio and TV, and creating interesting and engaging content, meanwhile adhering to all these ridiculous rules that don't seem to make any sense. So this is a fun, lighthearted novel that I think you will enjoy. Next is The Headmaster's Wager by Vincent Lam. Now this novel tells the story of a man from China who moves to Vietnam, and while he's there, he is constantly yearning to his homeland. He's constantly wishing he could go back to China. But the main narrative is about the father-son relationship. This would be a beautiful gift to give on Father's Day, because it's a celebration of that very special bond between man and his son, and all the beautiful and fantastical things that happens inside the love between two men who are bonded in this very special way. Next on my list is Carnival by Rawi Hajj. Now, this novel tells the story of a taxi driver and the long list of interesting characters that come into his taxi. And through this interaction, you learn a lot about the city that this taxi driver is living with. The city is never named, but many people speculate that it's based on Montreal, where the author, I believe, lives. So it's a story about marginalization. It's a story about how society treats a certain element within itself, how certain people are on the fringes and those people are crushed and suffering and attempting to belong. It's one of those novels that requires imagination on the part of the reader, because it delves into metaphorical areas, and it requires a certain sensitivity to read it. But I absolutely love this novel, and I hope you will enjoy reading it as well. Now, we have One Brother Shy by Terry Fallis. And this is a humorous novel. It tells the story of a young man who works in a software development company. He has a horrible, nasty boss. And then his mother dies, and as a result of the death of the mother, he suddenly discovers a family secret. And he feels compelled to go and explore and discover more about himself and his family and where he came from and who is his father. And this adventure takes him to London, England, where he discovers more about the mystery. I'm trying very hard not to give it away. And so there's adventure, there's KGB, there's spies, there's a subplot involving hockey, a subplot involving a very unique tattoo, and as things unravel, he learns more about himself, and it's written in a very engaging and lovely way. Finally, this is the +1 in the list. I have Spoonful Chronicles, a novel that I have written, and this is a novel that is based on food experiences. So it tells the story of a woman who, in order to unlock the secret to her destiny, she has to remember everything she has ever eaten, and from those memories she begins to see certain patterns that have repeated themselves in her life, and through that she is able to untangle the mess that her life has become. So, what do you think of my list? What would you add to it? What other favorite, much beloved Canadian novel would you suggest or would you like to recommend? Please let me know. The best way to stay in touch with me is subscribe to my mailing list. Go to my website, ihave.com, and look for the link that says free ebook. Everybody who signs up to my mailing list gets a free ebook written by me. I hope you enjoy it. See you on the other side. Bye.